It's an event unlike anything Colorado's roads have seen before, expected to be worse than any holiday weekend. The State Patrol talks about unprecedented plans to deal with traffic during next Monday's eclipse.
Curse words and lots of yelling as Senator Gardner answers questions at 3 town halls. And he has his own things to say about the president.
But the city of Denver is in the process of buying a property with a closed strip club on it.
Even if you're staying close to home, the eclipse is going to have a huge impact on the roads all the way through Monday and potentially Tuesday. The State Patrol and CDOT are taking measures that are unprecedented in some parts of the state. Beware, because even around the metro area, traffic is expected to be worse than a holiday weekend. People are being warned not to send unnecessary text messages during the eclipse to avoid overwhelming cell towers. Also, the State Patrol says if you're in your car on Monday morning, put your phone down. Do not pay attention to the eclipse and simply drive. If they pull you over, they will issue you a citation.
Everybody who stops on the side of the road is going to receive a ticket. But we will be out in force. Just on the north I-25 corridor, you will probably see an additional 15 to 20 troopers working the road.
For the first time, there will be task force teams on I-25 and Highway 287 to help police, firefighters, tow trucks, and ambulances get to the incidents faster. Starting tomorrow night, there will be restrictions on oversized vehicles. They will not be allowed on any highway for most of the state from sundown tomorrow until sunrise on Wednesday. The State Patrol says they're really not sure how many cars will be on the road, but right now they're ready for an event the likes of which this state has never seen before.
I estimate, from the things I've been researching and looking at, I've seen estimates from anywhere from about 50,000 additional cars. And when I say this, I'm talking cars going from Colorado into Wyoming. So I've seen estimates from 50,000 to 500,000.
On top of all of that, aircraft will be used to see where the trouble spots are popping up. Drivers who are traveling are being told to have snacks, water, and a full tank of gas.
The place next Monday between 11:40 and 11:50 a.m. to be the path of totality. 50 to 60 miles wide. The moon will be perfectly aligned to block out the sun along that path. Won't last long, though. On the outskirts of the path, totality will only last a few seconds. At the very center, totality will last about 2.5 minutes. If you are outside of that swath, scientists say you won't get nearly the same experience. 9 News reporter Dan Grossman talked to the Museum of Nature and Science about what will be seen in Denver.
0.9%. It seems infinitesimal, a fraction so small that it shouldn't matter.
It'll be very close, but not quite there.
But ask what that percentage means, and space science educator Naomi Paquette will tell you it's quite literally the difference between all or nothing.
I think it would be more impressive than, say, even here in Denver, but it is night and day difference, literally, to be able to do that.
What we're talking about is Julesburg, Colorado, our state's northeasternmost town, but also the town with the highest obscurity at 99.12%.
But even there, scientists say there will still be 10,000 times more sunlight than, say, there will be in Casper, which will see totality or 100% obscurity. Take that difference into account. In Denver's 92% obscurity, it's still great, but it's still lacking.
Absolutely, it does. And that's why there is such a big fight to get hotels and camp spaces along that path of totality in Wyoming, Nebraska.
In terms of luminance, Paquette says 92% will make Denver appear as it would at dusk. Animals will quiet and the sun will dim, but you won't see sun flares or planets, sites reserved only for places in the path of totality.
In Casper, you'll see that corona flare out right at totality. You'll see stars pop out in the sky, planets. So it is really a very different experience.
But don't fret, at 92%, Denver and even Durango at 80% will still see more obscurity than more than half of the country. If that's still not good enough for you, just hold out for 2045, when the path of totality from the next solar eclipse will pass through South Denver. In Denver, Dan Grossman, 9 News.
A decision from the jury in the Taylor Swift groping trial within the last half hour. They have determined that Swift's mother and manager were not to blame for a former Denver DJ losing his job. And the jury says David Mueller, the DJ, did assault Taylor Swift at that meet and greet at the Pepsi Center in 2013. Taylor Swift asked to be awarded $1 in that case. 9 News reporter Victoria Sanchez was there when the verdict was read. She joins us from outside the federal courthouse. Victoria.
Kim, and Taylor Swift will get that $1, a symbolic amount, according to her attorney. We did just find out that after a 4-hour deliberation of 6 women and 2 men here at the downtown Denver courtroom, they did come out in favor of Swift, saying yes, she was assaulted, and yes, there was battery from former Denver DJ David Mueller to Taylor Swift on June 2nd, 2013. When the verdict was read, Taylor Swift had a sigh of relief. Her mother started crying and wiping away tears. I'm here now with Tony Rather. Tony, you've been in the courtroom all week, and you do say that you are a Taylor Swift fan. Yes, what do you think about the jury's decision?
Well, the whole case was, kind of interesting to follow, and I agree with their decision. After seeing the evidence, I agree with them 100%.
Okay, thank you for that, Tony. We are just getting out of the courtroom just a few minutes ago. Again, at about 4:30, the jury did decide after 4 hours of deliberation that Taylor Swift's mother, Andrea Swift, and one of her managers does not owe any money to former Denver DJ David Mueller. Now, the total amount that he could have gotten was around $259,000. That is the amount for the rest of his contract at KYGO that he said that he lost out on. He will not be getting any of that money, and Taylor Swift was vindicated today, and the jury said yes, she was assaulted. Kim?
Well, we know many people listened closely to what she had to say and what he had to say in this case, and we're surprised it went this far, but as you mentioned, it's very symbolic for many people on all levels. So we look forward to hearing more from the lawyers involved. Thank you, Victoria.
If you don't demand that, your words are meaningless.
Will you push for President Trump to fire White House strategist Steve Bannon and other alt-right members of the White House staff? Just one of the questions Senator Cory Gardner faced at his 3rd and final town hall in Lakewood tonight. 9 News political reporter Brandon Ritterman attended the town hall this afternoon in Brandon. Charlottesville and the president's comments on what happened there were top of mind at today's meeting.
Absolutely, and in fact, that reversal you talked about from President Trump towards the top of the newscast came out just as Senator Gardner was arriving here at Colorado Christian University. I got the chance to talk to him shortly before he went on stage to take questions from the audience, which you can now see is filing out behind me here. And I asked Gardner point blank about the president's reversal.
Let us be very clear. This is not a time for pale pastel comments. This is a time for clarity. And this is a time to be absolutely clear. There is no moral equivalency in what happened in Charlottesville. We will not stand for the KKK. We will not stand for neo-Nazis. We will not stand for white supremacists. They don't belong in this country. They aren't a part of this country. And shame on anyone who fosters or propels their ideas.
I went on to ask Gardner whether he thought the president might be fostering those ideas. He said he hadn't heard the president's comments directly just then. But then when he appeared on stage, Senator Gardner was a bit more forceful. He was pressed a few times, as you showed, about the president's staff. And as part of his answer, he said, quote, "The president should have done that immediately," saying that he should have pushed back on the president rather should have pushed back on the white nationalists who organized the protests. He also went on to say Gardner did what the president did today goes back on what he said yesterday, and that's unacceptable. Now, the questions often focused on health care in this crowd. This crowd has been eager to talk to Senator Gardner about that, many of them opposing Republican efforts to push back on Obamacare and wishing that they'd had the opportunity to talk with him about that before the Senate took votes on it. It was tense in there at times. You could tell these were not necessarily friendly people to Senator Gardner's political positions. They were clearly opponents, sometimes swearing over him as he attempted to speak. The moderator on stage actually pointing that out a couple of times, asking people to be a little bit more civil in the way they were talking about things. In fact, the conversation itself, we did spend some time talking about how we talk about politics.
I hope that you don't believe that Republicans are racist overall. That's a shame. That's a shame.
It's not, Republicans are not all racist. They absolutely are not. But almost all racists are Republicans. That's really embarrassing to stand next to.
There are people who are going to agree with you and disagree with you. And I hope that we in this country don't believe with a broad cast that they are all racists.
The city of Denver is throwing money at a notorious section of Colfax where business was once conducted $1 bill at a time, hoping to turn a former strip club into a benefit for the community. 9 News reporter Anusha Roy explains.
This area is home.
I've lived along Colfax in almost every neighborhood from Capitol Hill out here for the last 28 years.
Home for Tom Fessing along East Colfax Avenue.
It does not contribute to the value of the neighborhood. It brings some bad elements into the neighborhood.
He welcomes the closed sign at the former PT strip club. Former in every sense of the word. Shut down close to a year ago, seized as a public nuisance by court order after a series of calls for police over the years, including a fatal shooting. And now,
I'm excited that as a city, we're taking that first step.
The city of Denver is in the process of buying the property, hoping it will be the first of many investments in an area where police carry out gang, narcotics, and prostitution operations.
Colfax is our main street, so it's really a great opportunity to do something pretty spectacular.
There are no concrete plans yet, but there are guidelines since federal dollars are involved.
Has to be neighborhood serving, and it could do job creation. And when I say neighborhood serving, a nonprofit or a small business and or an affordable housing component.
The people hope that this vanishes soon and brings in opportunities. They brought up an example of small businesses. What they're really looking for is places people can walk to safely.
We'd like to keep that sense of diversity and community here.
The deal still has to be okayed by City Council and the mayor, but the excitement isn't lost on those who have been waiting for the right first step.
Hopefully lift up everyone that lives here, everyone.
In Denver, Anusha Roy, 9 News.